In this presentation, we're going to use Excel to fit some data to a Lorentzian peak. Open up the Excel spreadsheet with the data to be fit. Highlight the data and let's make a quick XY scatter plot. And let's just realize that none of Excel's trend lines look like this data. Here's the Lorentzian form we will be fitting to. It has one variable, which is the F, and three parameters, H, capital W, and F0. H0 controls the peak's height, capital W controls the peak's width, and F0 controls the peak's position, at what frequency you see the peak. So let us insert a few rows at the top, and then in B and C we're labeling and giving values to the parameters, and for now they just have fake values, so I put in 1, 1, 1. And then in C5, we are entering the formula for the Lorentzian equals $1, that's the height parameter, times $3 caret 2, that's the width parameter squared, divided by a big parenthesis around the denominator, a second parenthesis around the variable A5, the frequency, minus $2, the position frequency, or F0, close the parenthesis, that gets squared, plus $3 caret 2, that's the width parameter squared. Columns A and B hold the data. A is the frequency data, and B holds the height of the peak at each of those frequencies, and C holds our Lorentzian fit to the peak, and it's not a very good fit just yet. So we want to plot both the data of the height of the peak versus the frequency as well as our fit. So we're highlighting all three columns. B and C are both Y's and they share the same X. So it's three columns giving us two graphs. Now C at this stage, because we have not chose good fit parameters, just hovers around 0, and blue still shows the original data peaking. So we are going to click away from the graph, just in some empty cell, and then come back and sort of hover over the points near the top of the blue peak. We will see that it gives us an X and a Y, and in this case the X seems to be 325. We're going to note that and use that as one of our fit parameters next. So we have entered in cell C2 the 325 we saw previously, and we entered it as the peak position F0 fit parameter, and we see at around that frequency that one lone orange dot at the top, suggesting that the orange peak and blue peak now occur at the same frequency. So next we're going to go after our next parameter, which is the height. So once again we're going to hover over the peak in the blue, the data, and see that this time we're going to notice the Y. The Y is about 0.379, so we're going to take note of that this time. So now we see that lone orange dot near the peak of the blue. So now they are peaking about at the same frequency and have roughly the same height. And so we're going to go after our third and final parameter, the width. And this parameter is really known as the half width, that half height. So we're going to go down to about half the height. So the height was close to, say, 0.4. So we're going to look at a level of about 0.2, and we're going to point at points that are that have a height on 0.2 on sort of either side of the highest part of the peak, and we're going to note their x's. So we see that on the left there is an x around 300, and on the right there is an x of about 360. We're going to use these numbers next to come up with a width parameter. In the Lorentzian form, the parameter capital W controls the width, but it's actually what we call the half width at half height. So we measured the 2 points that were about half the height to be 300 and 360. So the width at the half height would be 60, the difference. But we want half of this width, so we wanted 30. So we put that in as the parameter in C3, and now we see that our blue, the data, and our orange, the fit, have a nice agreement. They are now fitting pretty well. So just a little cleanup. Let's change the title and add an x-axis label and call it frequency. Next, we're going to update the legend. So we're going to right-click on the data and choose Select Data. Then in the Select Data Source dialog box, we're going to highlight Series 1 and click on the Edit button above. In the Edit Series dialog box, we're going to change the series name and label this one as the peak data. Then we're going to repeat for Series 2, labeling it the Lorentzian fit, and click OK, and then we will have our final product with the legend now updated.